Hello, my friends. It's the Patriot Pastor Macil Duncan, and welcome to the show. We're so glad you're joining us, and it is kind of a sad day. You may have heard the bodies of the missing Kansas moms have been found, and thought I'd open up with that story. What makes it sad for me is you may have heard, but Oklahoma officials confirmed the missing moms have been found. As you know, one was a pastor's wife. Oklahoma police confirmed that the two bodies recovered in rural Texas County on April 14th were identified as the missing Kansas moms, Veronica Butler, 27, and Jillian Kelly, 39. This is sad news, guys. Investigators confirmed that they died. Let's see if they have a confirmation of how they died. Let's see. Kelly, the wife of the preacher, and Butler had been traveling to Oklahoma to pick up Butler's children for a birthday party in Kansas on March the 30th. And that's what was strange. It was a very normal mom outing, if you will. Kelly had reportedly supervised Butler's visits with her kids who were living with their parental grandmother, Tiffany Michael Adams, and she was immersed in a bitter custody battle. Uh-oh. Didn't know about that. So the custody battle seems to be a little bit here. Adams, 54, was arrested on Saturday along with Tad Burt Cullum, 43, Cole Earl Tombly, 50, and Cora Tombly, 44, who were all charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Wow, all over the custody of grandchildren and children. So a pastor's wife who was just trying to help mitigate got in the middle of a mess. The double murder came 10 days after Butler petitioned for full custody of the children, and evidently a confrontation happened. So investigators say it took 100 law enforcement officers, truly no exaggeration. They said 100 officers working night and day to bring the suspects to justice. And so I've got a clip here from one of the local news agencies to let you kind of hear, I guess, kind of how this is wrapping up. And this is sad news for the country. I know we focus on all these other things, but these two moms, I've been praying. I was hoping, being a pastor and having a wife, I was just praying for the guy that his wife would somehow return, but that's not the case.
Butler and Jillian Kelly, who were last seen March 30th, investigators recovered 2 bodies in the area over the weekend. And while they have not yet been positively identified,
they have been identified now, but I'm sorry. This also tells some more information.
4 people are now charged in connection to the disappearances, and we're finally learning some more about them and their pasts. News Nation senior national correspondent Brian Inton now live there in Oklahoma. Brian, obviously this case continues to unfold, to develop. What is the latest there as of right now?
Now, this guy goes on to explain about these 4 people that were arrested. I was reading a little bit of some prompting news, but again, just to bring some closure, and this is a sad situation.
There's been shocking developments, it seems like, every day, Nicole. Sorry to join you from the car. We've been racing around, chasing different leads, going back and forth between Kansas and Oklahoma. All of this happening really right on the border between the 2 states. I want to show you, though, we have some new video, this right here. This is video from one of the properties connected to one of the suspects. His name is Tad Cullum. He's the boyfriend of Grandma Tiffany Adams, who's sort of been at the center of this whole thing. We were over at that property. There were a number of police officers there, and they actually towed, you can see right there, they were towing a white trailer. There is something significant about that trailer, we are told, and that is the reason police wanted to take it into evidence. And what's interesting, Nicole, is we have heard from witnesses that they saw that white trailer in the area of where the 2 moms were killed. So it is possible that that is the trailer that was used to transport the bodies. That is obviously something police are investigating right now. now. Again, it's been a wild couple of days as this has come together. Grandma Tiffany Adams had been planning to kill the mother of her grandchildren. According to the affidavit, there was this very, very contentious custody dispute that had been ongoing that seems to be at the center of this whole thing. We've learned that there was a previous attempt and plan to actually kill the victims before. That's something that we continue to look into. And actually all four of the suspects will be in court tomorrow. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more, Nicole.
That just is so, it's hard to imagine in this current day and time that people can be that upset with one another that they would want to actually plot and murder. But it all boiled down to custody of the grandchildren. And when the mother petitioned for full custody, the father of the children's mother, the grandmother on that side, said, well, I'll just kill you. And evidently threatened in the past. This time she succeeded. And they've got a horse trailer. The FBI and the sheriff's are if you watch the video, pulling away that they hauled the bodies in. But boy, it just saddens my heart that you have such hatred in this country. Well, moving on to another. Speaking of hatred in this country, January 6th, I don't know where you stand on that, guys. I know some of you, and it probably really leans whether you are a Donald Trump supporter or not, I would imagine, because some folks would say, hey, Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. Well, need to remember a couple things. One, he's never been charged with insurrection. Number two, he's not been convicted of insurrection. Okay, it's a mental massage that they've been trying to do on you guys to get you to believe that, because that's the reason up in, for instance, Colorado, these other states trying to get Trump off the ballot, saying he's an insurrectionist. But he's not been charged, and he's not been found guilty of that. So you've got to be careful, because remember, in America, you're supposed to be innocent till proven guilty. Savvy? Well, what's happened is January 6th, it appears to me, okay, 3-4 hours is pretty much what they said the insurrection lasted, the heat of it, if you will. Demanded, I want you to think, a January 6th committee Pelosi puts together. She put the token Liz Cheney on, who is the Republican, who lost re-election by the largest defeat in the history of elections in America. That shows you how disgusted her own state was with her. They were even begging Democrats to vote for her just so it wouldn't look. They knew she was going to lose. They were just trying to keep it from being so bad. So you have this January 6th committee, the Adam Shifters, the Pelosi's, all the talking heads of crazy in D.C. They come together and they have this witch hunt going after, of course, Donald Trump and any supporters. This is where your FBI thugs come in. They start finding pings. Now, I want you to know, I know of 5 people that were up there. Now, I didn't go. I was wanting to go, but my wife talked me out of it because of the money, because we had a wedding coming up. If it hadn't been for my daughter's wedding, I would have been there. But my daughter's wedding, my wife said, honey, we really ought to save every penny. And she was right, because we wanted the wedding to be good, and it was. So I've got friends that went up there, and to this day, they're waiting on the knock from the FBI. But I have another friend that went up there. He lives in Nashville. His phone was confiscated, and the videos that he had pretty much exonerating people, they will not release back to him. Now here's the sticky. The FBI used pings on the phone to determine whether you were in the Capitol or not. They used, of course, surveillance cameras. But if they couldn't recognize your face, they went to your phone to say, hey, if you were in a general vicinity, the pings, that made you guilty, enough to be subpoenaed or to be arrested. Now, let's quickly go to Fani Willis, who was doing the bow chicka bow bow with, her supposed boyfriend, who was hired to be the impartial investigator attorney to go after Trump, she said the pings were not reliable. They could not be accurate. Now, when Democrats speak out of both sides of their mouth, you pretty much know when a Democrat's lying, their lips are moving. But going back to the January 6th, you have all these people being arrested and being brought to D.C., and they're doing a lot of show trials, in my opinion. The interesting thing is, January 6th, as soon as the GOP win back the House, all of a sudden Nancy Pelosi announces, and this is amazing, we lost all of our records. Seriously? Well, there is a trial right now, a January 6er, and he's brought up a good point. See what you think.
The Supreme Court is hearing arguments today in a major case stemming from the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The outcome could invalidate felony obstruction charges for more than 300 people connected to the attack, including former President Trump. Senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer joins me now for more on this. And Devin, you've been listening into these arguments all morning long. How is each side making their case?
Well, Stephanie, this case involves a law passed in the wake of the Enron scandal more than 20 years ago to prevent the destruction of evidence and financial documents. But prosecutors in those 300 cases and in the case against President Trump, as you mentioned, used this law to potentially send some of those alleged rioters behind bars for as much as 20 years. There's a provision in the Sarbanes-Oxley Act that says it is a crime to otherwise impede or interfere with an official proceeding. The government right now, Stephanie, is arguing that that is pretty broad language.
Different senators and congressmen have now said the FBI has admitted they had agents in the crowd wearing Trump paraphernalia, influencing direction of the crowd. You have on video Capitol Police removing barricades and waving people into the Capitol. Now, I know on one side they got some hooligans supposedly climbing and breaking windows, etc. Could those have been paid actors? Just throwing it out. Could they have been? And before you say, Macil, you're sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Remember the pipe bombs? You know, it's been proven now that the pipe bombs that they said were at the Democrat and the Republican places there in D.C., and they had to have dogs to sniff them out. Did you know they were literally found the night before, diffused, and they had already deemed them no problem? But when this was supposedly taking place, they used pipe bombs to scatter the Congress and the Senate and Mike Pence and them to private meeting places. Do you remember that? Yeah, that's a fact, Jack. So when you take that into consideration, that they lied about the pipe bombs right there on the spot to use it to take out the Senate and Congress, you got to ask yourself. Now, I've had the Brunson brothers on my show that have petitioned the Supreme Court now 3 times, and 2 of their cases have actually made it before the justices, basically saying that this is injustice of what's been going on. Go check out the Brunson brothers. And Lloyd, if you're listening, Pastor Sloot, give me an update. So this case right here, before the Supreme Court, there are multiple cases before the Supreme Court, and at some point, I think the Supreme Court is going to have to look in this and look at it from a realistic view that what happened there was nothing but political fodder. Because if you're going to allow Antifa and Black Lives Matter and groups such as those to burn cities down and have their summer of love like they did up in Oregon and repeatedly have violence compared to 3 to 4 hours in D.C., and you've made it a national spectacle, there's something wrong here. And I think the American people know it. I'll be back. This is Macil Duncan. If you'd like to help us feed the hungry, you can go online today at www.appisonbaptist.com. That's appisonbaptist.com, and help us feed the hungry. We're feeding right at 3,000 people or more a month, one time. We do that by giving out food at our food pantry.
Are you ready to
also
start
going
your
downtown to
nursing
the
career?
tent cities and a lot of veterans and homeless people. So again, help us feed the hungry at www.appisonbaptist.com.
Attention business owners. Have
Have you already filed for your employer retention credit with the IRS? As reported in a major financial paper, the IRS will be slowing down ERC checks. You could now be waiting several months to a year plus to get your ERC money. We can help you get it within 10 days. As long as you've already filed for your ERC with the IRS, we can advance you the money. Finance ERC has already funded millions of dollars in ERC money. You don't need to wait to get your money. We can get it to you within 10 days. Again, if you've already filed your employer retention credit, we can help you get the money in your bank account within 10 days from today. But you need to call right now while time is on your side. Here's our number. Not available in all states.
800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. That's 800-570-7651.
Life insurance is one of those things that just about everybody needs, but few people actually have. Hey, if you die unexpectedly without life insurance, guess what? You'll leave your family with even a bigger mess. Life insurance will help replace your family's income. It'll help cover burial expenses. Life insurance can even help pay off debt like credit cards and medical bills. Life insurance can even pay for college. And if you own a business and you die, life insurance can help your business from collapsing. It can even help cover estate taxes. Life insurance has never been more affordable and needed. Plus, you can always shop around even if you have a plan and save some money. So call the Life Insurance Quote Line right now for free pricing information.
800-932-3721. 800-932-3721. 800-932-3721. That's 800-932-3721.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. That's 800-803-3771.
It is 11 a.m. in Washington, where the Supreme Court is hearing a challenge to the law used to prosecute hundreds of January 6 defendants.
Our Scott McFarland joins us now with more analysis on today's argument. So, Scott, can you tell us more about the arguments that we heard this morning on both sides?
You're not hearing a lot of discussion of the attack itself.
The attack itself. Hey, Skippy, there wasn't that many people attacking. It was peaceful.
Riot, the rioters. You're hearing about this obscure federal law
Obscure federal law. Now, I'm playing CBS. I want you to hear from the Licklock liberals as they're trying to downplay this play by the January 6ers, because understand this. If this were to get to the Supreme Court, and if this were to pass, it would exonerate Donald Trump, thousands of others, because I pulled up how many have been arrested. Arrests now, more than 1,265 defendants have been charged in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. I repeat, January 6th now has an arrest total of 1,265 defendants in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And we got Skippy here acting like Anyway, just let's listen to Skippy. That's not his real name. I'm making fun of him.
Now with more analysis on today's argument. So, Scott, can you tell us more about the arguments that we heard?
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm going to call you Skippy.
Heard this morning on both sides.
You're not hearing a lot of discussion of the attack itself, the riot, the rioters. You're hearing about this obscure federal law and U.S. code, which has become a very common argument in the January 6 cases. The code involves obstructing an official proceeding. It's an obscure term, but it's been used in more than 300 January 6 cases, and some of the defendants have argued it's not appropriate in the context of the U.S. Capitol riot, that it's more related to financial.
It's not a riot, I don't think. Get mad, light me up on your little comments. It was American citizens not agreeing with the outcome of an election. They went to hear their president, Donald Trump, and the interesting thing was he was almost 45 minutes late, okay, to get on the platform. As he's up there speaking, one of the men from Trump, Blacks for Trump, spoke. He had spoke at another place, and they were coming down to catch Trump because they heard he was late. And they heard explosions and the conflict already starting at the Capitol, while the majority of the people. The other thing they're not telling you, it was one of the largest gatherings of all time at the Capitol. I mean, they're in D.C. When Donald Trump spoke, they said it was larger than inaugurations. That's what's making them paint this picture. They won't let you see the truth. See, the media has to brain their minutia into your brain and shake your head so much that it sticks to the walls and the crevices inside your cranium to where you think, well, this got to be true. Please, just do your own research.
Crimes or document destruction, not a mob attack. Most of the federal judges in Washington, D.C. have dismissed that claim and say, no, it's fully appropriate. But one agreed and let this go to an appeals court. The Supreme Court has taken it up, and during extended arguments late this morning, you heard them press attorneys from both sides. Should we be using and allowing this charge in the context of January 6th? If they strike it down before the session ends here in June, would impact not just the hundreds of January 6 defendants who've pleaded guilty or been convicted or have been charged with that crime, but Donald Trump faces that charge as well.
Now let me tell you about a guy I know, Joseph Padilla, that's up there. His wife's been on my show three times now. They've been to our church. We took up a love offering for him because you need to understand what happens in things like this. When the media attacks you, and you're not a person of wealth and means, you lose your job, you lose your residency, etc. They've got 3 children. One, the youngest, is handicapped. Okay, he has mental challenges. So, luckily the kids were at school, but they came and arrested Joseph in Cleveland, Tennessee, just up the road here, in the middle of the morning, and he was in his boxers. And it was in February, so it was cold outside. And they took him outside handcuffed. His wife, they handcuffed as well. She didn't go to D.C., and she's in her nightgown. So they got both of them outside in their skivvies. Okay? Then they stormed, and it was a SWAT team. Okay? An FBI SWAT team type group. They come in and take him out. Well, the wife says, they finally uncuffed her. She said, I'm going to go get my husband some clothes, please. He's freezing. She goes in, and when she comes back, they had left. She didn't get to say goodbye to her husband. She didn't see him for quite some time. He was put in the D.C. gulag. Now, this is a fact, Jack. For 23 hours of 24 hours a day, he was in solitary confinement. He was not allowed a haircut, to trim his nails or his toenails. They were not allowed any commissary. So all they got was the meals that the prison provided at these early stages. Sometimes they were given dog food. They were given a boiled egg and a stale piece of toast. But you know what they did every night at 9 o'clock? They sang the national anthem and said the Pledge of Allegiance. They love their country. And I think this is, to me, abhorrent. The justice system and the way the FBI has labeled some of these people. There may have been some instigators, But the deal is this. Joseph Padilla was offered 3 times. He had a law firm in Cleveland that was going to represent him because it was kind of cool at the beginning. Well, then they dropped him like a hot potato after they'd squeezed all the assets they had. She had to move out of their apartment and start living with family members. She works 3 jobs to this day to take care of her kids. The oldest son had to start work. He could not go to college like he had dreamed. The youngest son, who is handicapped, doesn't understand why Daddy keeps missing his birthdays, why Daddy's not there for Christmas, why Daddy's not there for Thanksgiving. He's a veteran from the U.S. Army. 3 times they told him, just say Trump told you to charge. We'll make a plea deal and get you out of here. He said, that'd be lying. Donald Trump never told us to charge. But because he wouldn't lie, they kept, and so his lawyers would fly in, they would have a court date set, and a few hours before the court date, they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, we've got to reschedule, knowing that was burning up their resources. So these lawyers were trying to waive their fees as best they could, but it was costing them a lot of money. Because they would fly in, get ready for court, and then they would say, sorry, we can't meet. Eventually, he got a sentence. And I believe he got sentenced to 8 years. But he spent 3 years in the gulag. So he's got to spend 5 more years in jail. His crime? He was at the January 6th, and then there was a melee of pushing. No fist, but pushing. And somebody took a bike rack and was pushing it. He is a big guy. He pushed it back against the Capitol Police to help an elderly man, and it's on video. Eight years for helping an elderly man that was being pushed upon and trounced upon by the Capitol Police. I'll take you back to Kyle Rittenhouse. Don't forget, in Kyle Rittenhouse, they made him out to be a bad guy, and they doctored up the video. Do you remember in the 11th hour, the FBI either intentionally or accidentally, someone with a conscience, released the full video of the drone that showed the 2 men were shooting at him, had guns, and they were the ones that started. Kyle Rittenhouse fell to the ground and defended himself, killing those 2 guys that were trying to kill him. The FBI is losing so much credibility these days that when they knock on your door, it's almost like a badge of honor that they're coming after people of integrity and people of patriotism. Look at the way they did Donald Trump and the way they handled Joe Biden. They kicked down Donald Trump's door in Mar-a-Lago with a SWAT team. But they just asked his lawyer, could you turn in some, and oh yeah, by the Corvette, we've got some documents back when he was a senator. See, it's rules for thee and not for me. I think a lot of us see this as a contradiction, and it's not fair, it's not right, and a lot of us seem to have, I guess, a consciousness that they don't. I don't know about you, but that's just me. But when we come up here, we're going to talk more about the money. You may not know this. I'll play this to the break. We're having lots of debt rolling up. U.S. budget deficit tops $1 trillion halfway through the fiscal year. Now, if you didn't know this, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Lifeway Books, Thrifty, wherever you get your online material. Move your mountains. Learn the journey of faith that can overcome. Don't forget, my radio show is every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Street Level America and U.S. Radio Today Heartbeat.
The nation's debt continues to climb.
Countries, and thanks so much. Move your mountains, my listener.
Are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. That's 800-957-6062. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is Macil Duncan. If you'd like to help us feed the hungry, you can go online today at www.appletonbaptist.com. That's appletonbaptist.com and help us feed the hungry. We're feeding right at 3,000 people or more a month, one time. We do that by giving out food at our food pantry, but also going downtown to the tent cities and a lot of veterans and homeless people. So again, help us feed the hungry at www.appletonbaptist.com.
Attention business owners. Have you already filed for your employer retention credit with the IRS? As reported in a major financial paper, the IRS will be slowing down ERC checks. You could now be waiting several months to a year plus to get your ERC money. We can help you get it within 10 days. As long as you've already filed for your ERC with the IRS, we can advance you the money. Finance ERC has already funded millions of dollars in ERC money. You don't need to wait to get your money. We can get it to you within 10 days. Again, if you've already filed your employer retention credit, we can help you get the money in your bank account within 10 days from today. But you need to call right now while time is on your side. Here's our number. Not available in all states.
800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. That's 800-570-7651.
Welcome back to the show, my friends. My name's Macil Duncan, and this is the Macil Duncan Radio Show. We are broadcasting live on Heartbeat USA Radio and StreetLevelAmerica.com. And what we're able to do, thanks to this network, is we're broadcasting now into 32 states, including the District of Columbia, and 26 countries have now logged into the show. So that's pretty cool on these different stations. We're also with SGM in Alabama. Pastor, salute to you. And also the Freedom Network in New Jersey. And I like to always thank my New Jersey, Miss Miriam, that gave me this Patriot Pastor hat. Almost 3 years ago when I kicked off my show, I always keep that as a staple prop. I love my my hats. I'm a hat horse. You may have noticed that. This is my book, Move Your Mountains. Please order the book. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, wherever you get your online books. And appreciate if you give me a nice review. Well, what's going on in so many other things, I need to ask you something. If you shot somebody, would you think that you would be held accountable? What I mean by that is, what if you shot someone, even by accident? Would you expect to go to trial? I think we all would. Because I've been through the gun safety courses, and you have your domain, but if you shoot somebody in your house, you got to make sure there was no other way for them to exit. For instance, if they've backed you down your hallway and there's no other safe way for you to flee the house, and you fire and they were to die, that is more acceptable. But if you shoot them out in your front yard, and they could have fled, or you could have gotten your house and shut the door, that's not acceptable, okay? So there's acceptable ways of defending yourself, and there's unacceptable ways. But then there's those supposedly accidents. Where I'm probably going with this is Alec Baldwin. I need to ask, how did he shoot 2 people? They only talk about the one lady that died. He shot 2 people. And he says he didn't know the gun was loaded. And I'll play for you his testimony at the police. But here's the deal. He claims he didn't pull the trigger. How did that magic gun shoot 2 people, Alex? You killed one and you wounded another. Interesting. But see, when you play fantasy for a living, you're an actor, you're used to persuading crowds of people to laugh, to cry, to get angry, to become sad. That's what you do. I mean, you're paid to do that. And you get really good. You go to acting classes. You learn how to persuade those around you to embrace your emotion. I think that's what we're going to probably see over the next several months of Mr. Alec. But here is a year ago. I believe this was a year ago. And see if you guys notice, and then we're going to play some more current stuff.
First of all, what do we know? What did these charges bring in terms of potential sentence, and when will they formally be filed?
Well, Lester, we know the DA says Alec Baldwin could face up to 18 months in prison and also a $5,000 fine. Officials and some experts believe he would likely get probation, but he certainly faces serious jail time. We also expect those charges to officially be charged in the coming days. And Lester, a key point here that has not yet been answered was how live ammunition ended up on that movie set in the first place. That was a major question during the process of this investigation. We still don't know the answer to that question, though we do obviously know that live ammunition ended up on a movie set when it should have never been there, Lester.
And probably not as important a question, but just a point of curiosity, will they resume filming of the movie?
Yeah, Lester, at this point, we've been told that as of this month, the movie is set to continue to resume with Alec Baldwin in it. Helena Hutchins, the woman, the director who was killed, her husband is now an executive producer on that film. From all of our understandings, the movie will continue. They plan to shoot that movie and wrap it and finish it sometime this year, Lester.
All right, Miguel Almaguer in New Mexico for us. Thank you.
So that's the NBC News version of Alec Baldwin. Now, I don't know what you think about that. This was a year ago now, and they're acting like, oh, the movie still could play, etc. Not that big a deal. Well, here is Alec Baldwin rush shooting aftermath. Okay, this is the footage. Now, if you go to BBC News, they actually have the actual footage of him actually shooting. I'll play you the audio and see what you think.
Are you doing okay?
No, I'm not, actually.
Alec Baldwin, who was both the star of the film and one of its producers, appeared stunned and disbelieving.
You tell me what to do.
Okay.
You tell me what to do.
He said he didn't pull the trigger and he didn't know who put a live round in the weapon he fired.
You shot 2 people, bud! Magic bang bang! No finger on the trigger! Don't forget, he's an actor. He knows how to act. Here he is in the courtroom. In the interrogation with the police.
Interview with the police.
I take the gun out, and as I take it, as it clears, as the barrel clears the hole, and as I take it, as it clears, as the barrel clears the hole, turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off.
I turn and cock the gun, and then the gun goes off. So it's not his fault because he didn't put live rounds in the gun. And it's not his fault because he cocked the gun, but he didn't pull the trigger. Alex, if this was a Republican or a conservative, would you be buying this piece up?
It should have been a cold gun with no rounds inside or dummy rounds, cosmetic rounds. No flash. I take the gun out slowly. I turn, I cock the pistol. Bang, it goes up. She hits the ground. She goes down. And then he starts screaming.
Oh, okay. So he diverts as much as he can. Now, this is the actual footage, which you can't see, but I can.
When rehearsing his quick draw only moments before a film set was transformed into a crime scene.
So then there's a reenactment, and they didn't show the bang. Here's a reenactment, though. You can go watch moments that Alec Baldwin actually accidentally shot and killed Helena Hutchinson's on set, reenacted by a film crew, and they've used the original footage to let you see the angle and all, and you can't see it, of course, this is radio, but you can hear it. The angle is directed. He is sitting, supposedly practicing his quick draw, Now, whether he meant to or not, he was shooting at Helena Hutchinson, and according to the reenactment, and also according to the he pointed right at her. Okay, the cameras weren't rolling, so there's speculation. The other thing to throw in this that makes it a little bit wah-wah, she was a part of a documentary exposing Hollywood human trafficking. This is before Sound of Freedom got released. Actually, this is when Sound of Freedom was still in debate about being released. So Alec Baldwin, what's going to happen? Well, this is what happened to the young lady that loaded the gun. You may have heard.
Have you heard of this brand new product that instantly cleans toilet?
Hang on. They slipped a commercial in on me. Happens every now and then. I'm pretty good for a producer one, don't you think? Check out what happened to the young lady that all she did was supposedly, she was the props girl. They're blaming her that they're saying that she loaded the live rounds in the gun.
A New Mexico judge today handed down the maximum sentence of 18 months in prison to the weapons supervisor on the set of the Alec Baldwin movie Rust. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was...
She didn't pull the trigger. He shot two people, not one, two people. They don't mention the guy. They only mention the girl. He shot two people. Why don't you guys get your facts right?
The maximum sentence of 18 months in prison to the weapons supervisor on the set of the Alec Baldwin movie Rust. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was found guilty last month in the accidental shooting death of the film's cinematographer, Helena Hutchins. CBS's Elise Preston reports on what this could mean for Baldwin's upcoming trial.
A handcuffed Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the chief weapons handler on the troubled movie set Rust, wiped away tears as she listened to gut-wrenching impact statements.
A live bullet should never have made this way onto the set, let alone the gun. Full stop. And that is where Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, as the armorer on Rust, failed Helena.
The jury found the 27-year-old armorer guilty of involuntary manslaughter in the 2021 fatal shooting of the film's cinematographer, Helena Hutchins. She was struck by a live round from the gun held by actor Alec Baldwin. Live ammunition mistakenly loaded by Gutierrez-Reed.
Ms. Gutierrez continues to refuse to accept responsibility for her role in the death of Helena Hutchins.
The special prosecutor said Gutierrez-Reed had shown no contrition, citing nearly 200 jailhouse phone calls in which she described the jury as idiots, accused the judge of being paid off, and wanting to put Alec Baldwin in jail.
The jury.
So they're making a criminal out of this young lady. It's obvious Alec Baldwin being a lip-lock liberal, and the media is going to try to help him out. But you got to ask yourself, if she gets 18 months... and she supposedly loaded the gun, what will Alec Baldwin get for pulling the trigger? If he walks, that's going to be a big, big misjustice, my friend. I personally believe her. I don't believe him. Of course, you may say I'm biased because I'm a conservative and he's liberal. Well, that's probably right. Well, here's another. You may have heard this. This was Donald Trump today.
Thank you very much. This is a trial that should have never been brought. It's a trial that is being looked upon, looked at all over the world. They're looking at it and analyzing it. Every legal pundit, every legal scholar said this trial is a disgrace.
Yes, definitely.
I agree. It's a witch hunt. I'll be back.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-708-3092. 800-708-3092. That's 800-708-3092.
This is Macil Duncan. My new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Lifeway Books, Thrifty, wherever you get your online material. Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome. Don't forget my radio show is every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Street Level America and U.S. Radio Today Heartbeat. We're in 32 states and multiple countries, and thanks so much. Move Your Mountains by Macil Duncan.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. That's 800-957-6062. Paid for by Term Direct.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. That's 800-803-3771.
Welcome back, my friends. It's the Patriot Pastor Macil Duncan, and welcome back to the show. I guess many of you have probably heard by now that the Speaker, Johnson, is under a little bit of fire. Did Speaker Johnson betray Republicans killing the surveillance law amendment? This is the Blaze Media. The article just dropped a little while ago. House Speaker Mike Johnson is under heavy scrutiny from the GOP after he voted to reauthorize FISA, which essentially allows the government to spy on Americans without a warrant. House conservatives are outraged at Johnson's decision to break the tie vote by siding with Democrats and the other 86 Republicans who voted in favor of the reauthorization of the surveillance law. Pat Gray is equally outraged by Johnson's betrayal, wondering if he can even be called a Republican after such a stunt. FISA Section 702 passed easily. Its authorization of spying on Americans without a warrant continues through 2026, thanks specifically to Mike Johnson. He cites noting that we need to limit their time in office and make them legislate from their district. Now, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky, among many others, also expressed his displeasure with Johnson's vote on a Fox exclusive interview, and this is what Senator Rand Paul said. I'm not sure there's a difference between Mike Johnson being in charge and the Democrats being in charge. So far, I don't see a lot of difference. So Mike Johnson is evidently being brought pretty much under scrutiny and under fire. Now, this is the Blaze Media if you want to go catch that article. But it does make the GOP look, to me, very suspected of being compromised and ineffective. And if you're going to become ineffective or feckless and you're not going to be able to be seen as the leader, it's going to make him lame duck the next several months. Now, here's another article. This is One American News. The second GOP representative backs efforts to oust Speaker Johnson. So Marjorie Taylor Greene has found an ally in Kentucky. A second House Republican has backed efforts to oust Speaker Mike Johnson. On Tuesday, Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky threatened to cast votes to vacate the House Johnson. Now, as he and Marjorie Taylor Greene and others now are getting together to see if, now this would take, it only takes one person in the Congress to have a vote of no confidence, if you will, and then they have to take an actual vote. But you understand this, it would take all 212, or 213, Republicans to override the 212. They only have a one-vote majority. Not good. Not good. So with that said, you've got the Kentucky congressman. Well, Speaker Johnson says absurd that someone would move to vacate. He is saying he's not resigning. Speaker Johnson, this is Newsmax, says, Speaker Johnson dismissed the gathered threat about the GOP on Tuesday to oust him from his leadership role. And he says, basically, I'm not resigning. And it's, in my view, an absurd notion that someone would be willing to vacate, that someone would bring a vacate motion. He goes, I'm not concerned about this. I'm going to do my job. Well, one reason he may not be concerned about this is I found this interesting. He has got some allies from the Democrats. Senior Democrat Party says we will save House Speaker from ousting. Right-ro. Is there a deal on the makes with the Democrats? It sounds like it is. Now, this is the Independent, and this is what the Independent's reporting. A senior Democrat member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee said his party will help prevent the ouster of Mike Johnson if the Louisiana Republican allows, this is the deal he has to make, a package including humanitarian aid for Gaza to receive an up-down vote on the House floor. Now, if you remember, one of the things that Speaker Johnson said, he would want to take care of our border first. Savvy? And we need to take care of our border first, then foreign aid packages. Well, that's really not happened. And as you know, no matter what they send from the House, Chuck Schumer's not going to pass it unless it benefits the Democrats. So this is what's going to happen. The Democrats are going to put together a deal. Mike Johnson's got some left-leaning Republicans. They'll get that passed. It's going to go to the Senate, and Gaza's going to get their money. It's going to save his seat because then the Republicans can't oust him, especially if half the Republicans that lean left or center left side with the Republicans don't have the votes to oust him. I don't see it, especially if they're offering him deals. So all this does, every time a Republican runs his mouth, it makes them all look a little bit weak and a little bit desperate. And I think that's the problem. But here, House Speaker Mike Johnson calls for reauthorizing FISA. See what you think.
House Speaker Mike Johnson urging House members to reauthorize a bill that permits spying on non-citizens abroad. The current version of the bill allows the FBI to search collected data to see if it includes data from Americans. Conservatives want warrants to be required for collecting American data. It's another strike against Johnson, who could soon face a challenge to his speakership.
See, Mike Johnson at first stood with the wishes. Now he's flip-flopped and caved in to the warrantless search of Americans. Now, he tried to go on a talk show and explain, once you go into the skiff and see what I've seen and hear what I've heard, many of Americans would vote with him. Well, Speaker Johnson, I'm sorry, but we haven't been in that skiff. We haven't seen or heard what you have. And to the average American, since the Patriot Act passed after 9/11, we have all felt a little violated and a little bit insecure with our government. And what we've seen from the FBI picking on people and other agencies, the IRS, 87,000 new agents under Biden, and their 4 requirements. Do you remember the 4 requirements? 1, you have to be able to shoot to kill and carry a firearm. 2, you have to be physically fit and not be afraid of physical altercation. This is IRS now. Number 3, you have to be willing to work long hours, more than 50 hours a week. And number 4, you had to have some kind of level of degree. The only sane requirement. Very interesting. So you got 87,000 IRS thugs now that can come and beat you up or shoot you dead. You got FBI guys that seem to enjoy, kicking down doors. Not all of them, but they enough. So what's left? Well, Mike Johnson, I'll say this, not to defend him, but something for you to consider. Nancy Pelosi is one of the wealthiest of all time. He doesn't have the money for lawyers. He doesn't have the money for, I hate to use the word, but sneaky deals. Pelosi, that's why you see so, look how long Democrats last as Speaker of the House compared to Republicans. Tip O'Neill for the Democrats, he was forever. Nancy Pelosi, forever. And then we'll have the little sparks of, Newt Gingrich for a couple of times, contract with America, but he didn't last long. Paul Ryan didn't last long. Boheimer, the drunk, now he is a lobbyist for the CCP. That's right. Your former Speaker of the House, Boheimer, is a lobbyist for the Chinese Communist Party. And now the GOP can't even hold it together till November? They're wanting to oust their speaker? I don't know, my friends. I feel sorry for Donald Trump. He's getting attacked in the courts. His party's falling apart. And it's a mess. And he can't even go to his son's graduation. We'll talk about that later in the show. Can you imagine a judge not allowing the former president of the United States to go to Barron's graduation with all the crap? I mean, he's got to know this as a judge. His family's gone through crap. I mean, I feel sorry for people's families. When I hear about a pastor or a politician or someone going through an issue, whether self-inflicted or being attacked, my first prayer goes out to the family as well as them, of course, because I feel sorry for families. Can you imagine the wives and the husbands of these politicians, and they constantly see the one they love being berated, misquoted, treated unfairly in the media? I tell you one that you may expect, Melania Trump. She says, what they're doing to her husband, is it fair? It isn't right. And he's a good guy. And she goes on to kind of say that in a recent interview, and we'll let it play to the break. But Melania Trump, with her accent, it's pretty pure. See what you think.
It's a place where you can be anything you want. Your opportunities are endless because our country provides so many chances to succeed. As First Lady of the United States, I know how much my husband loves the American people, and I know his passion in life is to see all the citizens of this great country do well and prosper. Donald is the businessman who never worked in politics, the ultimate outsider, and that earned him many enemies.
And that's the truth. And it earned him many enemies. He loves this country. And she goes on to say that he gets misrepresented constantly in the media. And then they try to make fun of her that she's not always around. What spouse? I mean, do you know many spouses of any, outside of Jill Biden? Jill has to be around because Joe doesn't know where he is. Nancy Reagan was kind of around a lot, but we found out later, even Ronald had a little bit of the little at the end of his last term. He was his early signs of dementia was setting in, so she was helping him in strong. The last his last 2 years weren't his strongest, as you know. So, this stuff that's the concern folks have, and that's something I think is a legitimate concern. You got two guys running that are getting pretty old. Now, I don't see how the Democrats hide the fact that Biden's major old, and he won't debate Donald Trump. Donald Trump said anytime, anywhere. Now, you know that the Democrats are trying to find where is the place we can load up a debate and make it impossible for Donald Trump. Now, because they would love to get a Rachel Maddow, get all their lip-locked liberals to moderate and just attack, and hope to catch him in a bluff or a misstatement that they can then make a meme or a soundbite and play to the end of time. But I tell you what I've said, I would love to see Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan and maybe Elon Musk. Can you imagine if those guys were moderators? I think they'd be I think they're the truth tellers right now. Most folks, when they look for, Tucker is very much trusted across the country, and Joe Rogan. Now, if he could watch the F-bombs, Joe Rogan's very much a trusted voice. But then Elon. A lot of folks didn't believe what was going down at the border till Elon went down there and reported live. Do you remember that? And then all of a sudden, Biden's at the border, Kamala's at the border. Everyone starts going down to the border. Now, Trump already had a trip planned weeks earlier. But I thought it was funny that Biden planned it the same day that Donald Trump was there. Donald Trump goes to a very troubled part of the border, and Biden stays up in a safe area that's already been secured. Anyway, that kind of pretty much paints the proper picture of them both. Anyway, the border is an issue, and Melania, my hat's off to you. I don't know how you put up with what you put up with. But Speaker Johnson, I don't know if he's going to succeed. I had high hopes he was going to be a part of the Trump administration if Trump won in 2024. But what they may be doing, too, is don't be too shocked if it comes out later that the GOP torpedoed Johnson because he's too strong of a Christian. And then what they may be blackmailing the dude. Who knows what they're doing to him? Let's just be honest. I mean, they're not. DC's not known for kindness and not known for integrity. I think we all know that. Well, Iran threatens a second attack on Israel with weapons not used before, receiving Russia military aid. So not only did Biden unleash funds for them, so did Russia. So I think a lot of folks are concerned about that, and Kirby has lost all credibility. This is Kirby trying to convince us that he's that don't worry when this is. Now, this is going to be a year apart. He's first going to say stuff like, hey, don't worry, we're unfreezing the funds for Iran, but we'll track it. We'll know where it goes. Then after the attack, he says, oh, we can't track it.
You're a lying dog-faced pony show.
The U.S. will have visibility and will be able to engage in oversight about where the money was going.
Now, this is Kirby, September 13th, 2023. Again, Mr. Kirby. Secretary of Lies.
Engage in oversight about where the money was going and for what purpose. If Iran tries to divert the funds, we'll take action and we'll lock them up again. And there will be sufficient oversight to make sure that the request is valid and that it's going through vendors who we and the Qataris can trust will actually contract for the goods, the medical equipment, the food, whatever it is. The regime doesn't get to touch the money, Peter. Doesn't go to them. They don't get to decide ultimate destination, and they have no direct access to it.
He's saying that Iran cannot have the money they unfroze. They can't have direct access. It's monitored. It's got all these safeguards supposedly on it. And this is him January 4th, 2024. Okay? His first comments you just heard was September 13th, 2023. Okay? This isn't even a year later, January 4th, 2024.
John, Iran made 2 transactions withdrawing from the previously frozen funds in Oman.
The previously frozen funds. Can we hear that again?
Drawing from the previously frozen fund. Drawing from the previously frozen fund. Drawing from the previously frozen fund. Drawing from the previously frozen fund.
Who froze those funds to Iran? Oh, yeah. Donald Trump did. Who unfroze them? Jojo the Biden, Mr. I don't know my name.
Drawing from the previously frozen funds in Oman. What were those transactions for?
I don't have the details on that, Jack.
Wait a minute, he just said every transaction will be tracked and monitored. I don't have the details on that?
I don't have the details on that, Jack. I have the details on that, Jack. I don't have the details on that. I don't have the details on that, Jack. You're going to have to let me get back to you on that.
You know what they say. Fool me once, strike one. But fool me twice, strike three.
And that's true. So Kirby is a liar, as you guys know, but he represents an administration of lies. And I think that's very obvious. So that's the sad thing. Now, let me see. I've got a new song, and I think Maria.
What a mess.
Maria, if you're watching, you're going to love this. But before I play the song, this is a, if you want to call it a little talk about truth between the difference between Biden and Trump. This is just a quick truth here. And let me do this real fast so I don't.
What a mess.
During campaign stops, former President Trump is asking the old question, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And Trump has now gotten a response from President Biden, who says, quote, well, Donald, I'm glad you asked that question, man, because
Biden says, I'm glad you asked that question, man, and listen to some fact jacks.
I hope everyone in the country takes a minute to think back to what it was like in March of 2020. Common Sense would like to rewind the clock. In March of 2020, AAA says the average price of gas was $1.99 a gallon. Today it's $3.53. Mortgage rates in March 2020 averaged 3.29%. Today it's 7.2%. Food up 25%. Rent 22% up. Credit card debt 47% up. In 4 years, the illegal immigration population has gone up by 8 to 9 million. Homelessness, crime, also up. In fairness, some things are down, like test scores, arrests, and national pride.
What a mess.
Yes, what a mess. Well, one of my listeners sent me a new song, and I just thought I would play it for you. Let me cue it up here. It's a very interesting song, and it's a tune you've probably heard before. But this is Joe Biden singing one of his new hits. And Maria Wagner, Moms for America, this is for you. And Jolene Carter, see what you ladies think about the new song of Joe Biden.
Hi, oh yeah, that's right. I'm Joe Biden. I almost forgot there. Sorry, guys. I am now going to try and impersonate Tony Lewis from The Outfield, which was created by Chris Dallas and Celebrity Recreations. Please let me know if you guys like it.
Joe Biden's brain is on a vacation far away. When he speaks, it makes you wonder. He doesn't even know what he wants to say. And we know he likes the girls a whole lot younger. Biden's gonna lose to 45. Biden's gonna lose to 45. When he speaks, it makes you wonder. He doesn't even know what he wants to say. And we know he likes the girls a whole lot younger. Biden's gonna lose to 45.
Biden's going to lose to 45. Very interesting. You can go check out the song on YouTube. I may not be a fan of Joe Biden, but he sings amazing. This song will hit number one. Spot for sure. This song just dropped a day ago. Chris Dallas Dulop. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, way to go, Joe Biden. I'll give you thumbs up on the song, but the chorus says, Biden's going to lose to 45. Anyway, I don't know what you think about that. Well, speaking of the administration.
We must stem the flow of drugs.
This is Joe Biden back when he was a senator. And I want you to hear This was him talking about the border and how we've got to stop the illegal immigration. We've got to stop the drug flow. This was Joe the Biden. See what you think.
We must stem the flow of drugs into our border and across our borders. Border and across our border. Drugs into our border and across our borders. This bill increases by 1/3 the current level of funding for interdiction at the border, including increased funding for Coast Guard and Customs Service personnel, which I might add, over the last 6 years have been cut.
So he's advocating for an increased money for border protection, Coast Guard, Border Patrol. And he went on to say, now I might add, for 6 years it's been cut. Okay, this is Senator Joe Biden.
We've talked about a war on drugs, and we have cut, not increased, cut the number of people we in fact say are supposed to be the ones at the bridge, blocking the enemy from at the bridge, blocking the enemy, be the ones at the bridge, at the bridge, at the bridge, at the bridge, blocking the enemy, at the bridge, blocking the enemy.
He's referring to illegal aliens as an enemy. This is your Senator Joe Biden, now your president.
From crossing the river into our territory. This bill assists Coast Guard law enforcement teams to Navy ships to bring the Department of Defense more actively in, assigns, I should say, Coast Guard law enforcement teams to Navy ships to bring the Department of Defense more actively into the fight against drug trafficking.
Are you paying attention?
Nope.
Well, this concerns all of us.
Okay.
That's them making fun about it. So that's Joe Biden, the senator, saying we need to take care of the border because the enemy, he referred to illegal aliens as enemies of our state. So this is Joe Biden now talking about opening the border. This is your president with Mayorkas, and he says combating terrorism. He's on C-SPAN, and you're not going to believe the change of tone. He went from calling them enemies and blocking the bridge. You remember he called it the bridge of illegal aliens coming in our country. Listen to what he says now. This is going to be a shocker.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority.
So he's calling for an open border, non-stop. Now, Mayorkas is trying to say that he's lied on the stand. So Mayorkas not only needs to be impeached, I think he needs to be in prison for perjury. But anyway, let me let you hear again. This is your president on C-SPAN with Mayorkas smiling right next to him. Listen to what he says. I'm going to play the entire thing, the full 30 seconds.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50.
Joe Biden's brain is on a vacation far away. When he speaks, it makes you wonder. He doesn't even know what he wants to say. And we know he likes the girls a whole lot younger. Biden's gonna lose to 45. Biden's gonna lose to 45. When he speaks, it makes you wonder. He doesn't even know what he wants to say. And we know he likes the girls a whole lot younger. Biden's gonna lose to 45.
I know. You don't know for sure. And it's true. The elections are never a shoo-in. You've got to just wait and see what happens. Here's some more breaking news. See what you
Hey
think.
there. I'd like to meet you.
It's a joke.
When people ask me what my favorite part of the job is, the answer comes out easily. It's spending time with supporters like you.
And it has a picture of a jock strap supporter.
Has President Biden considered maybe beefing up the public Iran posture to be more than just one word?
You're referring to don't.
Don't do it.
So you can talk about the don't word all you want, but let's talk about what did happen. And what did happen was Iran utterly failed. And if I'm sitting in Tehran right now, I'm betting that President Biden takes it pretty seriously when he says don't escalate. He's going to act to make sure that you can't. And they didn't. Yes, they fired an unprecedented amount of munitions, but how much of a success did they have, Peter? None. Zero. Very little infrastructure.
Heard you had an expensive...
U.S. taxpayers' money. Over 300 rockets. That wasn't free stuff. I think what we saw and witnessed, and I mentioned this yesterday, because this is the interesting thing about, you've got to understand what Biden said. He goes, we're not going to help Israel attack Iran, but we're going to have an ironclad defense. We're going to help them defend themselves. So basically, this is what comes across to me. They wanted to see how good the dome was. Okay? So they had the dome. That's what Israel's known for. They got this dome that covers them and protects them from missiles. And they're crediting that to some credit that to our military, and some credit it to the intelligence of Israel. Who knows? But they're shooting these rockets and drones because I think they're trying to see, hey, what works on this thing? Because eventually the Antichrist is going to come after Israel. And Israel knows this. So Israel is in a situation. They're having to deal with the politics and the minutia of Biden, knowing that he unfroze those funds to Iran, knowing that Iran is the money, the bank, if you will, for the Hamas, the ISIS, and all the terrorist groups. Because they chant, they hate America. They call us the big Satan and Israel little Satan, and they chant for our death all the time. So you got to ask yourself, at what time are we going to say, enough's enough? We're not going to continue to take that anymore. I don't know. But that's the interesting thing. A lot of folks have different views on it. But here's the protests that are going across. This is Fox and Friends covering all the protests that's been going on lately. Burning flags. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm no jiu-jitsu guy, but I can't promise a peaceful assembly. If you try to burn a flag in front of me, I'm going to try to stop you. I don't mind telling you. You may say it's your constitutional right to burn it. It's my constitutional right to stop you. Hang on just a second. They had the speaker down.
This is unbelievable. Anti-Israeli protesters find the Hezbollah flag in front of the New York Stock Exchange. Yes, the terroristic flag located in Lebanon. They're chanting also "Death to America" in a few languages while marching through the streets of various cities in America.
Death to America and death to Israel. Did you hear those chants? Death to America, death to Israel. They're burning American flags.
Protesters jamming up traffic for hours on the Brooklyn Bridge. Some even burning the American flag. Look at that.
Meanwhile, on the other coast in San Francisco, 38 activists were arrested after shutting down the Golden Gate Bridge for almost 5 hours. Another group blocked several sections of the freeway around the Bay Area, brought the city to a grind.
And in Chicago, travelers heading to O'Hare International Airport were forced to drag their luggage down the highway after protesters completely blocked access to main terminal. 54 people were arrested there.
So you got to ask yourself, how much is enough? Now, Newt Gingrich went on to say this, and I don't know if you agree with him, but Newt Gingrich demands Americans are getting tired of treason for saying death to America. And former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, he's a Republican out of Georgia. This is back when Georgia had a backbone for the country. Thanks to Tyler Perry and some of the other nut jobs down there, Atlanta has gone woke. But Newt Gingrich told Hannity Monday night that President Joe Biden is on the side of the people who yelled death to America and should be tried for treason. Gingrich's comments came following a day of mass demonstration across the country in the United States against Israel's war in Gaza. Way back in 1984, Ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick made an amazing speech at the Republican National Convention in which she described the Blame America First Democrats and said whatever happens anywhere in the world, the action of the American left is a Blame America First. Gingrich said, continuing, well, guess what? That's what Joe Biden, and he was in the Senate already. He was part of that. He is now surrounded by people who are crazy. And this is Gingrich now saying, the fact is, I think we ought to go back and learn the lessons in the 1930s. Frank Delano Roosevelt was faced with Nazi effort inside the United States. They locked people up. I believe, frankly, we should say, if you are for victory of Iran, if you want to scream death to America, we're going to deport you to Iran and pay for a one-way ticket. I like the idea. I like it a lot. I'm here to tell you, Newt Gingrich, I think, has got a point there, and a lot of folks are concerned because it seems like this anti-Israel and anti-America mantra is carried into the election, and I personally think that's what they're trying to do. They can't win on the economy, okay? They can't win. They can't lock up Trump. They've tried to get him off ballots. The only thing left is mayhem, okay? Now, I told you Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals that Barack Obama, when he was Barry Soetoro in Chicago, and Hillary Clinton, they were disciples of him. And, of course, this guy's from Chicago. He goes, 8 levels to control useful idiots by Saul Alinsky. Okay? And there's his 8 rules for radicals. He says, 1, healthcare. You've got to control healthcare. It goes, if you control healthcare, you control the people. Obamacare. 2, poverty. But don't forget, healthcare, the Affordable Care Act, they lied when they said they hadn't seen it. It was up there when the Clintons were in office. If you remember, they called it Hillary Care. Does anyone remember? Okay, they just called it Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act has been up there for a long time. And did you notice during the Bush administration, all these urgent care started popping up around the country? They knew it was coming with Obama because the Clintons, the Bushes, and the Obamas were all one of the New World Order, as Senior Bush said. Savvy? So they were making play. You can see it from both parties, the uniparty. So healthcare, and control the people. Second, poverty. Increase poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you're providing everything for them to live. 3, debt. Increase the debt to unsustainable level. I played for you a video earlier before one of the breaks. We are over $1 trillion, and we're paying $800,000 a day in interest. It's unsustainable debt like they want. Number 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you're able to create a police state. Number 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives, food, housing, and income. Number 6, education. Does anyone doubt this move? Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. Have you noticed Disney's redoing all the classics even though no one's going? You wait 5, 10, 15 years from now. Those will be the ones available, and the good old classics that had any morals or they won't be available. All the woke agenda that they're putting out now that's not doing well at the box office, that will be the ones probably available for replay. They've got a plan, my friend. They don't spend all this money for no reason. They've got a plan. Number 7, religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and the schools. Number 8, class welfare. Divide the people into the wealth and the poor. This will cause more disconnect, and it will be easier to tax the wealthy and support the poor. So, does anyone sense these 8 things happening? Healthcare, poverty, debt, gun control, welfare, education, religion, and class welfare. I think we're seeing it every day, and this is part of the Democratic mantra. Don't forget, back in the Bush's first term, I don't know if you remember, the Democrats were meeting actually in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was pastoring at the time, and they removed God from the platform. I don't know if you remember this. They got such bad media hit, they brought it on the floor the next day to supposedly vote it back in. And I remember watching the news, and it said how many in favor vote yay, and those against it vote nay. Go try to catch it on C-SPAN or somewhere. It didn't get voted back in. There was an overwhelming number of Arab Americans that were Muslim intent, and they did not like God, and they booed the guy off the stage. But he said it passed. We put God back on the platform. And that was just for that one election. They were trying so hard to get Bush out, supposedly. But I think we all found out later they're all one party. They're just one party. There's a uniparty. It's getting more and more clear. But here's more Fox News on the anti-Israel protests and burning flags. It just disturbs me, but I'll play it for you.
It's unbelievable that this is allowed to happen. I mean, this is a day also. It's not even a day in which, you could say that there was a bombing of relief workers in Gaza. This is a day in which 24 hours prior, the country of Israel was under attack and was taken out and blocked most of those missiles and rockets by fellow Arab nations led primarily by Israel itself, us about 80. And then you have Jordan and Saudi Arabia also playing a predominant role, as well as Egypt could have even played a role. But yet here in America, somebody's paying all these 20-something-year-olds to take the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah side, which is insane if you know the ethics and the values that don't exist in their organizations.
That's Brian Kilmeade, who leans left, but he was fired up, and he called it insane, and that they were paying. They always do that. You can go to Craigslist, and George Soros pays $25, sometimes $40 to $50 an hour. If you'll show up at a Trump rally and wave banners and stuff, it's very well documented. It's just the media hates to cover it because it destroys the narrative that there's this group that really hate America. I don't believe there's as many as they believe. I believe, like Brian Kilmeade just said on Fox and Friends, they pay a bunch of knuckleheads. I'll be back. This is Macil Duncan. My new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Lifeway Books, Thrifty, wherever you get your online material. Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome. Don't forget my radio show is every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Street Level America and U.S. Radio Today Heartbeat. We're in 32 states and multiple countries, and thanks so much. Move Your Mountains by Macil Duncan.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month. Call Bob right now. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. That's 800-957-6062. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is Macil Duncan. If you'd like to help us feed the hungry, you can go online today at www.appisonbaptist.com. That's appisonbaptist.com and help us feed the hungry. We're feeding right at 3,000 people or more a month, one time. We do that by giving out food at our food pantry, but also going downtown to the tent cities and a lot of veterans and homeless people. So again, help us feed the hungry at www.appisonbaptist.com.
Attention business owners. Have you already filed for your employee retention credit with the IRS? As reported in a major financial paper, the IRS will be slowing down ERC checks. You could now be waiting several months to a year plus to get your ERC money. We can help you get it within 10 days. As long as you've already filed for your ERC with the IRS, we can advance you the money. Finance ERC has already funded millions of dollars in ERC money. You don't need to wait to get your money. We can get it to you within 10 days. Again, if you've already filed your employer retention credit, we can help you get the money in your bank account within 10 days from today. But you need to call right now while time is on your side. Here's our number. Not available in all states.
800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. 800-570-7651. That's 800-570-7651.
Hello, my friends. This is Macil Duncan, and welcome back to the show. Now, I played for you something earlier, and I've just got a few comments here on some texting and some instant messaging that Joe Biden seemed to have a very different view on the border. Now, this was Joe Biden back when he was in the Senate, and see if you remember, see if you can tell a difference. This was back when he was a senator and Bill Clinton was the president.
We must stem the flow of drugs into our border and across our borders. This bill increases by 1/3 the current level of funding for interdiction at the border, including increased funding for Coast Guard and Customs Service personnel, which I might add, over the last 6 years have been cut. We've talked about a war on drugs, a war on drugs, a war on drugs, a war on drugs, and we have cut, not increased, cut the number of people we in fact say are supposed to be the ones at the bridge, blocking the enemy from crossing the river.
Did you hear that? He said block the bridge, blocking the enemy.
People we in fact say are supposed to be the ones at the bridge, to be the ones at the bridge, at the bridge, at the bridge, at the bridge, blocking the enemy from crossing the river into our territory.
But then this is Joe Biden as president with Mayorkas. Now, I'm going to let you listen to this. This is your president.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Non-stop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority.
And he says that's the way it ought to be. So a lot of people are saying, what do you think the future is, Macil? Well, it's going to be in the elections. And the only way to control elections is somehow make them fair. Well, the big thing is voter ID. Now, in Texas, this is a Texas commercial. It's the biggest state in the union. And how they use voter ID. See what you think.
As you get ready to hit the polls, let's make sure you have everything you need to cast your ballot. Under Texas law, there are 7 acceptable forms of photo ID you may use when
7 acceptable forms. When the lip-locked liberals say, oh, this is racial prejudice, making folks have some kind of identification. Now, they've got to have identification if they want food stamps, if they want to be on SNAP, if they want to apply for government housing, if they want to get any of our government programs. And, oh, yes, if you want to come to the Democratic National Convention, you must have a photo ID. But to vote for president, we don't think that's really a big deal.
As you get ready to hit the polls, let's make sure you have everything you need to cast your ballot. Under Texas law, there are 7 acceptable forms of photo ID you may use when voting in person. A Texas driver's license, election ID certificate, personal ID card, and handgun license, or a United States military ID card, citizenship certificate with a picture, or U.S. passport. Now, if you do not have or can't obtain one of those 7 approved forms of photo ID, you do have other options. First, fill out a reasonable impediment declaration at the polls with an alternative form of ID, such as a utility bill, bank statement, government check, a voter registration certificate, a paycheck, or bring a copy or original of a certified domestic birth certificate. You can also bring any other document confirming birth that would be admissible in a court of law.
Did you hear that, Barry? Barack Obama? Must be a document confirming your birth admissible in a court of law. Now that is Texas, okay? This is Mariarchus thinking this is terrible. And as a matter of fact, what's interesting, he was speaking at a church. I thought they didn't want politics in the church. What happened to separation of church and state? Oh, if you're a Democrat, you can do that. See what you think.
Urging them to oppose the Biggs Amendment to require the government to obtain a warrant prior to spying on American citizens through FISA Section 702. A yes or no will suffice.
The Hatch Act and the Constitution permit the members of the President's administration to speak with members who are interested in questions about the effect of legislation, just like you are asking me today about effects.
If we ask, that's one thing, but if we don't ask and you actually reach out, that's a different thing.
That does not violate any law of any kind.
Okay, so will you answer my question?
Yes, I discussed the vital United States interest in extending 702 with members.
How many members did you call?
I'm not going to get into my conversations with.
So see, you're not supposed to. If you serve in a, like he serves as the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, now this is the guy Obama wanted on the Supreme Court. You remember? But Mitch McConnell, the one move he ever made with any bout of bravery, he blocked Merrick Garland from getting on the Supreme Court. That's why he makes the perfect Attorney General to go after the Republicans. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's angry. We blocked him from his dream job. He wanted to always be one of the long-lasting Supreme Court justices. That will never happen now, especially after all this controversy he's caused. But listen how he twists and maneuvers laws to benefit the lip-lock liberal agenda.
With members.
I'm not asking about the conversation. I'm asking about how many members did you call?
I'm not going to get into that question, but I'm telling you,
okay.
There's nothing.
Right.
He won't answer the question. I didn't think you were allowed to do that to Congress.
Awful. This is the basic.
On March 3rd, 2024, at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Selma, Alabama, you made.
What? Merrick Garland was at a church in Selma, Alabama? What happened to separation of church and state, Democrat?
I'm telling you, there's nothing unlawful. This is the basic.
On March 3rd, 2024, at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Selma, Alabama, you made comments regarding our country's elections and election security laws passed by various states. Specifically, you claimed that democracy was under attack by, and I quote, discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot. Attorney General, do you believe requiring an ID to vote in a federal election is discriminatory? Yes.
He says, do you believe, did you hear the question? Let me play the question. And then he asked just for a yes or no vote. Listen to this lawyer of lip-lock liberalism continue not to answer the question.
Specifically, you claim that democracy was under attack by, and I quote, discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot. Attorney General, do you believe requiring an ID to vote in a federal election is discriminatory? Yes or no?
I spoke at the
just yes or no?
iconic church from which the March for Voting Rights began.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's decision says that undue burdens on voting rights caused by...
Did you hear him use the word Supreme Court with a quiver? Meaning that was my dream job. Merrick Garland's like, I'm pissed. I wanted to be on the Supreme Court. So he's quoting the Supreme Court with a very skewed view. Let's listen again.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's voting rights began.
Yes or no?
Iconic church from which the March for Voting Rights began.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's began.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's answer is the Supreme Court's decision. Answer is the Supreme Court's decision says. Answer is the Supreme Court's decision says. Answer is the Supreme Court's decision says that undue burdens on voting rights caused by voter IDs can be unconstitutional, but that
what
the burdens. That's right. That's what the Supreme
voter ID can be unconstitutional.
It can be.
Dear, it can be. Aren't you glad this nut job's not on the Supreme Court? He's twisting the words of the justices. Now, how do I get a photo ID? This is a cute little doo-wopper. Countyoffice.org. It's a government video commercial, so check it out.
Welcome to County Office, your ultimate guide to local government services and public records. Let's get started.
How to get
photo ID card from post office. The post office, a hub of letters, packages, and yes, even photo ID cards. You might be surprised to learn that you can actually get a photo ID from your local post office. This service is often used by people who need a form of identification, but do not have a driver's license.
Oh, so our federal government offers options for people that don't have a driver's license. You go to a local post office and they help you provide with a photo ID that could be used for voting, getting your government to subsidies, your government housing, your SNAP and your CLAP and whatever else.
Get a photo ID from your local post office. From your local post office. From your local post office. This service is often used by people who need a form of identification but do not have a driver's license. To get a photo ID card from the post office, you first need to locate your nearest post office that offers this service. Not all post offices provide this, so it's important to check beforehand. The United States Postal Service, USPS website is a great place to start. Once you've found your post office, you'll need to bring along proof of identity and proof of residency. Examples of proof of identity can include a birth certificate or passport.
Heaven forbid, you just ought to prove you exist.
While a utility bill or lease can serve as proof of residency. The post office will then take...
Residency, meaning you live, instead of pretending to be somewhere to steal votes. Signature verification and photo ID needs to happen.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-708-3092. 800-708-3092. That's 800-708-3092.
This is Macil Duncan. My new book, Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Lifeway Books, Thrifty, wherever you get your online material. Move Your Mountains, Learn the Journey of Faith That Can Overcome. Don't forget my radio show is every day, 3 to 6 p.m. on the Street Level America and U.S. Radio Today Heartbeat We're in 32 states and multiple countries, and thanks so much. Move your mountains, by Macil Duncan.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. 800-957-6062. That's 800-957-6062. Paid for by Term Direct.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. That's 800-803-3771.
My friends, this is Macil Duncan. Welcome back to the show. We were talking about the voter registration and that the ID. Now, if you want to secure an election, the best way to do that, of course, is to secure that the votes, one vote per person. That's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know if you know this. When we took over Iraq under Desert Storm, we tried to force democracy on them. I don't know if you knew that. And we tried to get them to have these fair elections. Well, to have an election, you had to come and bring proof of that you were who you said you were, some kind of a bill or something. And then when you voted, okay, you had to put your thumb in purple ink. That lasted for several days so that you couldn't go vote in another precinct. See, America was worried about election integrity over in Iraq. They could give a big rip here. You can't tell me that they don't have the technology now. I mean, look at my latest iPhone update. Tried to force me to have facial recognition and a pass and all this stuff. Of course, I bypassed that crap because I don't like all that. But they try to make you, I mean, they have these iPhones and these smartphones with all this high tech, and you're just saying you can't develop a way for us to have one vote per person? I'm convinced we could have the election in one day, make it a national holiday, use the technology you know they have, and one vote per citizen. Two things would happen. It would not only secure the vote, it would increase, and this is what they don't want, increase the amount of citizens voting. See, they like the minutia of making you get frustrated, thinking, one, the elections are rigged. My vote doesn't count. It's a waste of my time. Is that one of you out there? So what happens? You stay home, you don't vote. They get to then doctor up the votes with some of their little shabam-bam. If everybody turned out to vote, can you imagine? Because right now, they said prior to Trump, they were lucky to have 38% of those eligible to vote in a presidential election. It was lower for non-presidential midterms. Donald Trump in 2016 upped the voting to right at 40%, and in 2020 it was up higher. It was between I believe it was 40-45% of Americans voted, which was crazy high. That's why you had to have the delays. That's why the voting in certain states, 4 states, had to stop counting the vote. You remember that? And somebody was ahead, and all of a sudden they stopped counting, and when they replugged it in, it changed. Yep. So, because so many folks voted, did you know this? This is a fact, Jack. Try to prove me wrong. Did you know Donald Trump won every state but one with the ballots? Biden won almost every state with mail-in ballots. Which, if you had to trust mail-in ballots versus those that took the time to show up at the precinct and vote, which one do you think would be more credible in a court of law? Especially when many of the mail-in ballots do not have signature verification. Go watch the movie 2,000 Mules. If you haven't seen it, it shows you how they cheat. And both sides probably do it. I have no doubt. But here again is Merrick Garland. I wanted you to hear, thank God, the guy that did not get on the Supreme Court.
This is the basic.
On March 3rd, 2024, at the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Selma, Alabama, you made comments regarding our country's elections and election security laws passed by various states. Specifically, you claimed that democracy was under attack by, and I quote, discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot. Attorney General, do you believe requiring an ID to vote in a federal election is discriminatory? Yes or no?
I spoke at the
just yes or no?
iconic church from which the March for Voting Rights began.
Just a yes or no will be fine.
The answer is the Supreme Court's decision says that undue burdens on voting rights caused by voter IDs can be unconstitutional, but that the burdens. That's right. That's what the Supreme
Voter ID can be unconstitutional.
It can be, depending on the burdens and the discriminatory way in which they are taken.
Well, it can be. So he says acting like it's a burden to get a voter ID. Well, again, this is in Texas. Listen to all the ways in a very red state, Texas, goes to let you vote.
You get ready to hit the polls, let's make sure you have everything you need to cast your ballot. Under Texas law, there are 7 acceptable forms of photo ID you may use when voting in person. A Texas driver's license, election ID certificate, personal ID card, and handgun license, or a United States military ID card, citizenship certificate with a picture, or U.S. passport. Now, if you do not have or can't obtain one of those 7 approved forms of photo ID, you do have other options. First, fill out a reasonable impediment declaration at the polls with an alternative form of ID, such as a utility bill, bank statement, government check, a voter registration certificate, a paycheck, or bring a copy or original of a certified domestic birth certificate.
So they've got 7 options for photo ID. And if you don't have those 7 options, you can fill out a form, and they ask you to bring one of 7 options of just paper identification. Texas has got one of the best voter ID laws, I think, and I don't see how you couldn't think that's fair. Now, here is a guy, a man of color, that says the Democrats have insulted him, and Lindsey Graham introduces him, and see what you think. Lindsey Graham brings a gentleman that says he's insulted that they act like African Americans are stupid that they can't get a voter ID.
He serves as U.S. Representative for Texas 38th Congressional District. He was first elected in 2023 and serves on the House Judiciary Committee, as well as the House Subcommittee on the Constitution and Limited Government. He received his Bachelor of Science from the United States Military Academy at West Point. After serving 8 years in the United States Army, he attended Cornell University, where he obtained a Master's of Business Administration and Public Administration and Industrial Labor Relations. You're a busy guy. We're honored to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Congressman Hunt, proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Graham, for having me here today to speak about voting rights in America, the country that I love dearly. More importantly, I'm here to talk about the left's soft bigotry of low expectations.
The left's soft bigotry of low expectations. Buckle up, Buttercup. This is good. This is a man of color, very educated, speaking that they are talking down to people of color as if they're not smart enough to get adequate documentation to vote. And if you are a person of color, you ought to see that. The Democrats treat you like you're still on a plantation.
Because it's the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party, that thinks so little of black America as a people of color that they'd make the case that being black in America means we can't obtain a government ID to vote. And that's not only a ridiculous assertion, it's demeaning and it's insulting. When it comes down to it, many of my colleagues on the left like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s. Well, we're not. I've got some good news for you. It's 2024, and I know what year it is because I've been black for just over 40 years. And I'm also the son of a retired lieutenant colonel who grew up in the segregated South. You see, my parents grew up in a Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. Their next generation, my parents had 3 kids. My sister, brother, and I all went to West Point, all 3 of us. We all served our country in combat. And I sit before you today as a sitting United States congressman in a district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that's a white majority district, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I won by almost 30 points. And that doesn't happen unless we've made some incredible progress in this great nation. Now, my colleagues on the left like to say that common sense voting laws, including requiring a government-issued ID, are racist, discriminatory, and burdensome. Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government-issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government-issued IDs, and while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen? It's very simple. It's personal responsibility for all Americans in this country, regardless of what you look like. Sitting with me today is my global entry card, my military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport. What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 government-issue IDs?
The Black Houdini. Was this not hilarious? I got to play that again. Check this out. This guy whips out 6 photo IDs.
My military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport. What sorcery is this? What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 government-issue IDs?
There you go. So what Merrick Garland and then we're trying to bring up just isn't right. Now, if you go to the photo ID, the states that have it, ironically, it's all the blue states that don't have voter ID. All the red states do have voter ID, but they are green here. And then the red ones in this particular map have no voter ID, but they have ID requirements, but it doesn't have to be photo ID. So there's 17 states that don't require photo ID. 23 states do. And then you have 11 states that require you to prove who you are. Let me give you a quick example. You can go to Charlotte, North Carolina. If you know someone's address, you can go up and say, hey, my name is John Smith. I live at 1125 Scooby-Doo Drive. They'll give you the ballot. All you have to do is know the address and the name. No ID, no check. How do I know this? Because I lived in Charlotte. And when I would go vote, and one time in line, this guy that was an alcoholic, he was a bum, told me he was getting paid $50 every time. And when he got done voting at this precinct, he went out, got on a bus, they took him to another one. He was making $50 every time he stopped. And I said, who's paying you? He goes, who do you think? The Democrat Party. $50 cash. Now, there may be Republicans doing it too. But you can get a easy government voter ID. You could go and watch this little ditty. It's online. How to go to your local post office and get a photo ID. But it's not as hard as they try to make it sound. And it's rather, I agree with the guy. I think it's rather racist of the Democrats to imply that there are people not smart enough to be able to go get a photo ID. That's just me and my opinion. But I don't know. That and $1 will get you something at the Dollar Tree. But I'm amazed how people have made this look like it's some kind of a miracle to get a photo ID to vote these days. And that's just not the case. So I just think we just got to pray about that. Jim Jordan says this.
What do you think of the speaker?
University of Wisconsin.
What do you think of the speaker's strategy here on Ukraine and Israel? Does it make sense to you?
I'm not a big fan of this. Well, I like the individual votes. I'm not a big fan of putting them all back together for send it to the Senate. If there's going to be individual bills, have them be individual bills. Send it to the Senate. Let the Senate do it.
Would you vote against the rule?
I've never voted against the rule before, but I don't like this plan. I just want to fund Israel. I think that we should have done that a month ago.
What about the motion to vacate?
We've done it a long time ago in Israel, frankly.
Yeah. What about the motion to vacate?
We shouldn't. We don't need that. No way. No way. We don't want that. We shouldn't go through that again. And
thank you, Jim Jordan. Two things he said. One, we need to fund Israel. Should have done it a long time ago. And secondly, we don't need to worry about vacating the speaker's house, the speaker's seat. I'm very disappointed in Mike Johnson, but you know what? There's people that we get important. I mean, my wife gets disappointed with me. I know that's hard to believe. I get disappointed in her sometimes. Everyone gets disappointed. As a pastor, I'm sure I disappoint some of my congregants. They disappoint me. It's part of life. That doesn't mean you just completely say, I'm done with you. We live in a very quick divorce society. I just want to end it and move on. And I think Speaker Johnson has made some sad moves. We don't know all the story behind it. I would not be too surprised if he's been pressured. But anyway, that's for another day. And I don't know if we'll get to the bottom of this anytime soon. But we'll go up here to the big board, and we got a couple other things to talk about. Let's see. There we go. I've already mentioned about Iran there. Let's go to the next one here. Trump may be forced to miss his own Supreme Court hearing and his son's graduation due to hush money trial. I think the Daily Wire has this article out, and if you heard Donald Trump, he mentioned that in a press release today outside the courthouse. But former President Donald Trump lashed out Monday after learning that Justice Juan Moroccan, I don't know if that's his, I'm sure I'm butchering his name, expected him to be in court for every part of his Manhattan hush money trial, even if that meant missing a Supreme Court hearing on presidential immunity issue and his son Barron's high school graduation. I was looking forward to that graduation with my mother and father there, and it looks like Judge does not allow me to escape this scam, Trump told reporters at the New York Supreme Court following the trial's first day. The former president defense team had asked that the trial break for the day of May 17th so that Trump could attend Barron's graduation ceremony at Palm Beach, Florida, with his family. Merchant did not immediately deny the request, saying instead that it would depend on how the trial was progressing at the time. It really depends on if we are on time and when where we are in the trial. That's a way of them pushing back at Trump and saying, well, don't do any delay tactics. Well, that's what lawyers do. Merchant made it clear that he expected Trump to be present throughout the trial, which may last as long as 8 weeks and is scheduled every weekday except Wednesday. Even if that meant missing oral arguments before U.S. Supreme Court on the issue of presidential immunity. So this is getting very interesting. It's obviously they're trying to tie Trump up. They don't want him on the campaign trail because Biden can't go on the campaign trail because he has nothing to run on, and secondly he has nothing between the ears. So there's no reason to put him out there. They try to limit Biden's open mic moments, if you notice. And at his State of the Union, they did a lot of applause to try to break up the mumbling and bumbling. They kind of made fun. Let's get ready to mumble, because that's all he does. He mumbles. But I think he spoke, 30 minutes, a little less, in total comprehensive sentences. Most State of the Unions go over an hour. But see, he kept it short. Why? Because those shots in the rear end only last so long for dementia patients. That's what they're saying. I don't know. That's allegedly now. So that's a big thing. A lot of folks are think again they're going to give him some sympathy. Well, far left radical BlackRock CEO Larry Fink flips out as red states divest from his woke ESG-driven company. Hello. This is interesting. Radical left BlackRock CEO Larry Fink was caught on audio Friday completely losing his mind as red states cut off funds to his woke company, including Texas Permanent School Fund decision to withdraw $8.5 billion last month. Now Texas has $8.5 billion in a school fund, and I'm assuming that's public school. Okay, as Gateway Pundit readers know, BlackRock is the largest asset managing firm in the world, overseeing trillions of dollars worth of assets. It was founded in 1988 by Fink. By the way, it's also the only American institution that has been allowed to deal directly with China without cashing in, converting to the yen and then invest, etc. So they've been in bed with China from day one. Okay, the company used to focus solely on risk management and fixed income securities management, but has since attempted to force companies across America to adopt social credit system akin to the communist China focus of environment and social justice, okay? And if not, they'll face penalties. That's where some of this DEI crap has come from and all these other things. If you don't go along with all this peer pressure and other pressures, then you won't be able to do business with us. It's going to get to a point where if you are a true born-again Christian with any moral fiber, it's going to be hard for you to function in the I think the elite world of white class. Just in, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink absolutely loses it. You can go to the Will Hyde, his X account. He actually has the video. I was afraid to play it because it might have some wordy dirts in it. But Fink says, I've spoken before about the fear that we see today. Some are stoked by increasing political polarization in the world. Our industry at BlackRock have been subject to political dialogue, mostly in the United States. We have done a better job telling our story to the people, and can make decisions based on facts, not lies or misinformation by others. Well, sir, you guys have been the bullies on the block. You control the Federal Reserve, you and J.P. Morgan. And for people to be turning on you now means there's something, birds of a feather flock together. There's something smelling in the kitchen, my friend, and they don't want to do business with you anymore. And I think a lot of folks are getting tired of having things pushed in their face that they don't agree with. So, interesting stuff. Well, another quick story. Indiana National Guard member shoots illegal immigrant stabbing others at the southern border. The National Guard's media department responded to the shooting by releasing a statement that reads, the Indiana National Guard is aware of the incident that happened Sunday, April 14th. We support and care for our soldiers and airmen supporting Operation Lone Star. Now, don't be too surprised if they don't try to make a media melee and use this young guy as a sacrificial lamb that here he was shooting at poor immigrants. Now, I remind you that Mr. Biden, when he was a senator, called migrants, he called them a different name. He called them illegal aliens trying to cross the bridge. And I don't know if you remember this. This was Biden.
Are supposed to be the ones at the bridge, blocking the enemy, blocking the enemy, blocking the enemy, blocking the enemy from crossing the river into our territory.
So he called illegal immigrants the enemy and that there was a bridge to be protected. This was back when he was a senator under Clinton. He has, of course, since changed that, and this is your president today saying open the border.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop. Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America.
And he says that's a good thing. And I'm not prejudiced. I don't have a problem with people of color, but I have a problem when you don't let people come in legally. Okay? So here's Speaker Johnson announcing that he thinks there should be some kind of a plan to make sure anyone that votes is a U.S. citizen.
Thing we need to do, and this is what the House Republicans are about to enter legislation into the record.
Oh, yeah, no, you know what? No, yeah.
That will ensure that no illegal can vote in a federal election. You have to, no illegal can vote in a federal election. You have to prove you're a citizen instead of, as the law currently states, just checking a box to say it. Maria, we have so many illegals in the country that no illegal can vote in a federal election. You have to prove you're a citizen instead of, as the law currently states, just checking a box to say it. Maria, we have so many illegals.
So many illegals. And he's right. Very many illegals.
The election, if this happened, if just 1 in 100 illegals decided to vote in a federal election, it could swing congressional races, and it might even swing presidential election. You could talk about hundreds of thousands of votes potentially. So we have to do everything possible to make sure that this election is secure. It's a #1 priority of the American people.
Speaker Johnson, you're saying a lot of good things, but and that was just a day ago, but how are you going to accomplish that if you are about to be challenged by now 2 people have threatened to challenge you, Marjorie Taylor Greene and the guy from Kentucky. Now, I know you got Jim Jordan. The Republicans don't have the votes. They would have to vote in unison to replace him, so they don't have those votes. And the Democrats said, hey, we'll vote to keep you in office, but you've got to do us this favor. And the solid is that they'll vote one. And this is where the Senate's going to kill us. The vote. Listen to me now. This is the plan. The Democrats say vote by for the Gaza package singularly, Israel package singularly. Vote for whatever, Ukraine, whatever. Then those things go to the Senate singly. So they're going to deny the border. They're going to deny Israel, but then Chuck Schumer will vote for Gaza and he will vote for Ukraine. You see how it plays? So they're using some of the GOP talking points against them. This is what's wrong with D.C. The Democrats are smarter. They do better planning. They have better strategy. The GOP always comes out looking like the idiot. This is Macil Duncan. If you'd like to help us feed the hungry, you can go online today at www.appletonbaptist.com. That's appletonbaptist.com and help us feed the hungry. We're feeding right at 3,000 people or more a month, one time. We do that by giving out food at our food pantry, but also going downtown to the tent cities and a lot of veterans and homeless people. So again, help us feed the hungry at www.appletonbaptist.com.
Attention, business owners. Have you already filed for your employee retention credit with the IRS? As reported in a major financial paper, the IRS will be slowing down ERC checks. You could now be waiting several months to a year plus to get your ERC money. We can help you get it within 10 days. As long as you've already filed for your ERC with the IRS, we can advance you the money. Finance ERC has already funded millions of dollars in ERC money. You don't need to wait to get your money. We can get it to you within 10 days. Again, if you've already filed your employer retention credit, we can help you get the money in your bank account within 10 days from today. But you